In a time and place between now and then, a school for the lost and unclaimed. The faculty was small but eclectic, and not all of the children were named. There was Cyril, a boy who liked setting fires, another child, she was called Jay. There was the boy of no name who jumped a lot, and Shirley, well, she was a "See you next Tuesday," cried Cyril, as the bell rang out loud in the ears. "It's October, you twit," said Shirley. "No bank holiday until it's New Year's." And then, of course, there was Angelica. She liked science and weird things like that. Biology and physics she liked most of all, having once dissected a rat. She lived all alone, as all children did, away from the others in town. Their walk home was luscious and full of wild flowers, but hers, well, it made most folk frown. Not Angelica, though. She liked the bare trees. She liked how they all matched her frock. While wandering homeward, she saw a dead crow half splattered across a large rock. She stared at the crow and then picked it up. She carried it all the way home. She was learning, you see, what lightning might do if fed into dead things, just for fun. The rain, it got worse, and Angelica sat, pondering what might just work. She watched as the storm grew rumbly, and by the window she started to lurk. By now, of course, she'd set it all up, and she'd opened up all of the shutters. The lightning it struck, it fizzled and sizzled, and the crow, it started to flutter. The crow, it got flustered, not knowing what's what. Angelica stumbled with flair. The crow, it flapped and it flopped and it flew, but got stuck in Angelica's hair. Angelica paused, as did the crow, both contemplating next moves. Angelica was actually secretly pleased. She felt now that she'd found her new groove. The crow was a crow and didn't mind much. There was somewhere to sit and to rest. Angelica's hair was a mess of all kinds, and actually made quite a good nest. Angelica, though, felt tingly and strange, and sweaty and cold in her head. The crow didn't seem to mind all that much as she took a lay down on her bed. A feverish night then followed, full of hallucinations. There were monsters and fires and shadows of ships and horrible machinations. On Monday, Angelica arrived at school, the crow still stuck in her hair. The other children all pointed and laughed, and even the jumping kid stared. "You look so stupid," Shirley cried out. "You look like a tree," chortled Jay. "That crow might just eat you, you freak," said Cyril, and then they skipped off to play. Angelica walked home again, annoyed and confused at how the children all failed to see the genius of how she'd revived the crow. Did she really look like a tree? Next morning she woke, and there on the bed, two eyes all glassy and bright were laid on the floor, staring right at her, but Angelica was not taken to fright. She put them in a jar and walked off to school, but Shirley was nowhere to be seen. "You still look so silly with that crow in your hair," shouted Cyril in a voice rather mean. Next morning, right there, on the floor once again. 2 more eyes, these ones shiny like glass. Angelica scooped up the eyes and placed them into one of her science-y jars. At school, still no Shirley. Now Cyril was gone. The jumping kid just jumped and stared. He didn't say much, but you knew by his face. For Angelica, he didn't much care. Next morning, 2 new eyes, as dead as the mud, were placed in the jar on the shelf. And going to school, Angelica thought, is this really that good for my health? Jay stood at the gates with a rock in her hand. My friends are all blind thanks to you. Angelica stared, and the crow flapped as usual. It's the crow, it's cursed, if not you. She threw the rock at the crow and missed. Threw another, and the crow flapped and flapped. It finally got untangled from Angelica's hair and avoided the 3rd rock just like that. Angelica dropped to the floor like a stone. Jay rushed forward and looked at her head. There was no mark, so she knew the rock missed her. But Angelica was definitely dead.